Welcome to the podcast about being unmessable with, no matter what life throws at you. Here is your host, Josselyne Herman-Saccio.
Hey there, welcome to Be Unmessable with the podcast. Today, I want to talk to you about goal setting, which, most of us do, goal setting, but oftentimes goal setting becomes like a drag because it reminds us of times we failed to meet our goals or fell short of what we were targeting, and it's got a lot of baggage to it. So, if you have done any work with me, you have heard me say game on. I say it often because I have turned my whole relationship to goals to one of games. I turn my goals into games. Why? Because games are fun and games immediately elicit a playfulness and a flexibility and not a rigidness. Like I don't have to play it this way. I got to be able to dance on the court. I got to be able to, go with wherever the ball is going to be. So let's talk about how you can create a game out of any goal. So we'll just, start with business, let's say. Let's say you have a goal to double your profits this year. If you create it as a game, when you create a game, inherently, there's no real heaviness to it. It's a game. I mean, you're playing a game. So if you've ever played a video game, there's levels that you get to and you fail and you get killed in the game. And then you've got to find out what you did that didn't work or what you need to do to get to the next level. And it's just a constant growth and development opportunity. So if you could treat your goals in that same kind of approach where everything is a growth and development opportunity, you'll have a lot more fun on the pathway rather than having to reach the goal to get the fun and the fulfillment. So when you make up a game, and games are made up, they're not like out there like, waiting to be discovered. Naismith invented basketball. He did not discover it. He made up a game. It was called basketball. And how you make it up initially, and this is sort of the Cliff Note way of doing it, is you've just got to say something is more important than not. So if doubling your profits are more important than not this year, now you have a game. So then the question is, okay, how am I going to measure if I win the game? Obviously, in that case, it has to do with your profits. So you've got to get clear about what are your current profits, what are your predictable profits, like last year's profits, and then what is the game? If you're going to double your profits, how are you going to space that out over the year? So if 9 months from now, where would you have to be in terms of a percentage of your profits if that was the game that you were playing? A lot of other games that you could create aren't so inherently measurable. So you might have a game to have a breakthrough in your well-being. Then the question is, okay, what measures are you going to use to determine that you had a breakthrough in your well-being? Because just because you lose weight doesn't mean you've had a breakthrough in your well-being. You could lose weight from being ill. So you want to create measures that are powerful. Maybe it's your heart rate. Maybe it has something to do with your BMI. Maybe it has something to do with your cholesterol or your blood pressure. So you come up with measures. First, you come up with the result, then you come up with measures, and then you got to have scoreboard. So the scoreboard is statistics. It's always numbers. It's either a number or a percentage. So if you're, dealing with a game that has to do with maybe re-signing clients, right? So retaining clients or retaining staff, then you come up with a measure called, re-sign rate, and then you come up with a statistic where it's okay, 80% of my clients will sign a renewal at the end of their term, or whatever is the number that you make up, because it's all made up and you get to be the one who makes it up. And the greatest thing about this whole approach of, turning your goals into games is that you can do it with anything. You can do it with your marriage. You can do it with your family. You want to have a more peaceful marriage. Okay, well, what are you going to measure? You could measure the number of fights that you have. I tell people this all the time. I've been with my husband over 30 years. We've had 5 fights. He says 4. but I'm not going to argue with him because that would be another fight. Okay. In my memory, it was 5 fights. And I was pregnant every one of those times that we had a fight. So for sure, I dropped the ball on having the game be it's more important to have a peaceful marriage than be right about something. That's a game that people often play unknowingly. It's more important to be right than happy. And then they wonder why they suffer in their relationships. So, the first thing I would do if I were you is in the areas of life where you want to create a goal, look at the current game that you're playing. Like, what is the most important thing in that area right now? Is making money more important than how much time you spend with your family? Is being able to have free time more important than how many clients you have? You have to kind of look at what is the current game you're playing before you can create a new game or identify the measures that you're going to use in the current game you're playing so that you have a clear scoreboard to be going for. And that way you'll be able to see if you're winning the game or not. A lot of times people go, well, I want to have, more peaceful marriage, but you don't have a scoreboard. You don't have measures. How are you going to know if you're winning? You might already be winning. If you don't have the reality clear about what you're measuring and how you're measuring it and what the numbers are, it is very difficult to impact reality. I deal with this all the time with my clients who want to have an increase in their income. It's like, okay, but how much are you making now? And oftentimes they really don't know. They've got to get clear about those numbers and then they can create a game. Okay, it's more important to make X amount than Y amount. And all of a sudden, you've got a set of actions that you can create to fulfill on that game, which is also a goal. But in this structure, it's a heck of a lot more fun. The process is what you want to focus on, not the end destination. Yes, your eye is on the basket. And yes, you've got to have a scoreboard. But if you're playing the game of doubling your income or your profits for the year, you better be clear about what you're providing for your clients, which is really the bigger game, like, providing value for people or empowering them to fulfill their vision. Then all those statistics end up being a done deal. People resign with you, people pay you what you ask them to because they're getting the value. So, what's the result? How are you measuring it? And and keep track of that scoreboard every day, every week, every quarter. Otherwise, you're just shooting baskets and people are making baskets, they're missing baskets. And if there was no scoreboard, you'd get bored really quickly at a game and you'd leave pretty quickly too. So I invite you to take on this practice of turning any goal into a game, saying this result is more important than not, inventing measures to determine whether you won the game or not, and creating a scoreboard. You could even have it on a Google Doc, or you could do some sort of physical display if you're artistic and like to collage, but make it fun. Why not? This is it. There's no place to get to. This is it. So if you're not enjoying playing the game, I promise you, when you produce the result or not, it won't be satisfying either. So you might as well enjoy every step of the ride. All right, let me know what you discover. And if you got value out of this episode, please rate and review it, share it with anyone you think it would make a difference with, and I'll see you on the next episode of Be Unmessable with, the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Be Unmessable with the podcast. And I am so happy that you spent some time with us. And I want to make sure that every time you spend time with us, you get value. So I want to offer you a free workshop on resilience and unmessable withness. So if you click below, Dr. Kathy Connor and I put together this workshop and it's free, and it'll give you a world around the difference between resilience and being unmessable with, not only from my perspective, but from a neuroscientist's perspective. So, those of you that love that world of neuroscience, click below and get the workshop for free. See you on the next episode.